The dawn over Zareth Prime brought a quiet tension. The twin suns rose slowly, casting a pale golden light across the colony. Ambassador Rylan stood on a high platform, looking over the streets below. Today was crucial. After weeks of careful planning, diplomacy, and subtle influence, the moment had come to unite humans and cooperative hybrids in a visible demonstration of trust and strength. Lyra joined him silently, her dark eyes reflecting determination. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Rylan nodded, tightening his fists. "We have prepared. Now we must act. This is the moment when humans and hybrids prove that coexistence is possible." The cooperative hybrids gathered first, assembling in a wide circle near the central plaza. Their glowing eyes watched each other and the humans carefully, sensing the importance of this day. Nearby, skeptical hybrids lingered in the shadows, observing without interference, yet their presence was a silent reminder that not all trust had been earned. Rylan addressed the crowd, his voice steady and clear. "Humans and hybrids have lived side by side on this planet for years, yet misunderstanding has created fear. Today we take the first step toward true cooperation. We show that intelligence, strength, and courage are powerful, but compassion, understanding, and trust make us stronger together." The crowd listened, a mixture of humans and hybrids. Some nodded subtly, others remained cautious, and a few skeptical hybrids watched silently. Lyra stepped forward, addressing the hybrid child who had first observed Rylan. "You have been our guide, helping us understand the hybrid's perspective. Today we show that humans and hybrids can achieve more together than alone. Will you join us?" The child's glowing eyes flickered thoughtfully. Finally it nodded. "I will observe and I will support those who choose cooperation. Today the colony may change." Rylan gestured to the cooperative hybrids and humans. "We will demonstrate unity through action. Today we solve problems together, not as separate groups but as a single community. Watch and learn, and perhaps the skeptical will understand." The first challenge arose almost immediately. A sudden malfunction struck one of the colony's energy towers, causing a flicker of instability in the surrounding structures. Sparks flew and the glowing symbols on the nearby buildings began to pulse erratically. Rylan stepped forward calmly. "This is our opportunity," he said. "Cooperate, communicate, and solve the problem together." Humans and cooperative hybrids moved quickly, forming teams. Rylan led one group to stabilize the tower's power core, using both human ingenuity and the hybrid's analytical abilities. Lyra coordinated communication between the teams, ensuring that each task was understood and executed efficiently. The skeptical hybrids observed, their glowing eyes fixed on the unfolding scene. At first, they seemed to doubt the humans' abilities, but as the teams worked seamlessly, combining intelligence, strategy, and adaptability, their expressions shifted. They could see that humans were not weak. They were resourceful, courageous, and capable of leading under pressure. The energy tower stabilized, the glowing symbols returning to their normal rhythm. The crowd erupted in a mixture of relief and admiration. Humans and hybrids had worked together successfully, proving that cooperation could solve problems faster and more efficiently than separation. Rylan stood tall, breathing steadily. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Humans and hybrids can achieve more together. Strength alone is not enough. Understanding, trust, and collaboration create true power." A skeptical hybrid stepped forward, its glowing eyes flickering. "Humans have shown capability," it said slowly. "But can cooperation last beyond a single challenge? Can it survive mistakes, misunderstandings, or disagreement?" Rylan met its gaze firmly. "Yes, cooperation is not easy. It requires patience, listening, and learning from mistakes. But if we value trust and understanding, if we act with courage and reason, it can last. Today we proved it is possible. Tomorrow we continue building that trust." The skeptical hybrid hesitated, then nodded slightly. It was a subtle gesture, but it was the first sign of change. Others in the shadowed crowd mirrored the movement, their doubts beginning to shift toward curiosity and cautious hope. Later, Rylan and Lyra led the cooperative group to repair an environmental system that had been malfunctioning for weeks. Humans and hybrids worked side by side, sharing knowledge and strategies. Rylan demonstrated techniques that the hybrids had not considered, while the hybrids contributed their analytical skills to predict and prevent potential failures. By midday, the entire colony had witnessed humans and hybrids working together, Even the most skeptical observers began to recognize the value of collaboration. Some approached cautiously, seeking to join in, while others watched silently, reconsidering their assumptions. Lyra turned to Rylan as they took a brief pause. "They are starting to see it," she said softly. "The skeptical hybrids. Some of them are reconsidering. They understand that humans are not to be underestimated." Rylan nodded. "It takes time, but today we planted the seed. The challenge now is to nurture it. Trust grows slowly, but once it takes root, it can change everything." As evening approached, Rylan called a gathering in the central plaza. Humans and hybrids alike assembled, their glowing eyes and hopeful faces reflecting the fading sunlight. The atmosphere was tense but charged with potential. Rylan spoke to the crowd, his voice strong and clear. "Today we proved that humans and hybrids can work together. We solved challenges that neither could have handled alone. But this is only the beginning. True unity requires ongoing effort, patience, and courage. Together we can build a future where both humans and hybrids thrive. Where we learn from each other, protect each other, and grow stronger together." The cooperative hybrids stepped forward, standing beside the humans. The young hybrid child who had first observed Rylan raised its glowing eyes to the crowd. "Humans have demonstrated strength beyond calculations," it said. "Cooperation is possible. Those who choose to join us will see the value of unity." One by one, skeptical hybrids began to step forward. Some hesitated, watching for signs of weakness or error. But as they observed the humans and cooperative hybrids interacting, they realized that unity was not weakness. It was a form of strength they had not understood. By nightfall, the central plaza was filled with humans and hybrids, standing together in cautious but hopeful unity. The glowing symbols on the buildings pulsed softly, reflecting a sense of harmony. The energy in the air felt different, balanced, alive, and promising. Rylan looked around, a sense of pride and relief washing over him. They had achieved something remarkable. Not perfection, not complete harmony, but the first true demonstration that humans and hybrids could coexist, cooperate, and thrive together. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the plaza. "We did it," she said quietly. "The colony is changing. They are beginning to see the value of trust and cooperation." Rylan smiled faintly. "It is only the beginning. But today we proved it is possible. Tomorrow we continue building on this foundation. And one day, humans and hybrids will not just coexist, they will lead this planet together." As the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the plaza, Rylan felt a sense of closure and hope. He had returned to a colony that seemed changed beyond recognition, filled with hybrids and hidden humans. He had faced uncertainty, doubt, and resistance, but through patience, strategy, and courage, he had united them. Above, the hybrids' glowing eyes shone softly, no longer cold and distant, but thoughtful and curious. Below, humans smiled with cautious optimism, their trust renewed. And in the quiet spaces of the colony, the future of GalacticPrime had begun to take shape. A future guided by intelligence, compassion, and cooperation. Rylan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility ease slightly. He had returned as an ambassador, but he had become a bridge between species, a guide for coexistence and a protector of humanity's legacy. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "You brought hope," she said. "And now the colony can see it too." Rylan nodded, gazing at the horizon. "Hope is only the first step. The real work begins tomorrow. But for tonight, we have shown that unity is possible, that humans can guide, protect, and inspire, and that is worth everything." In the quiet glow of the colony, humans and hybrids stood together, a fragile but growing alliance. And somewhere in the depths of the city, the once hidden humans whispered words of hope and gratitude. The future of GalacticPrime was uncertain. Yes, but for the first time it was shared, guided by intelligence, courage, and the enduring spirit of humanity. And as Rylan watched, he knew one thing for certain: humans had returned. Not just to survive, but to lead, to guide, and to shape a future where coexistence was more than a dream. It was reality. Lyra stood at the edge of the observation platform, her arms crossed over her chest, eyes narrowing as she watched the small human delegation step onto the alien world's surface. From a distance, they looked fragile, soft-bodied, unarmored, almost laughably defenseless compared to her own people. Her species, the Valari, prided themselves on their strength, their discipline, and their centuries-long legacy as the galaxy's supreme warriors. "I don't understand why the Council sent these humans," Lyra muttered under her breath. "They are not fighters. They are barely soldiers. We could destroy them without even breaking a sweat." Beside her, her mentor and guardian, General Corvin, did not respond immediately. He simply studied the humans with his sharp, angular eyes. "Never underestimate an opponent, Lyra," he said finally, his deep voice calm but firm. "Strength is not the only measure of a warrior." Lyra snorted softly, shaking her head. "That is true in theory. But look at them. Look at their bodies. Look at how they move. There is no power there, no speed, no skill." Corvin's gaze was steady. "Perhaps you will be surprised. The humans had arrived as envoys from Earth. They were here to open diplomatic channels with the Valari, whose empire spanned dozens of star systems. The Valari were wary of outsiders, particularly humans. Stories of Earth's wars and technology had reached them, but Lyra had always dismissed them as minor skirmishes compared to her people's battles. Humans were known as thinkers, not fighters. Lyra's pride made her disdain clear, and even the humans seemed to notice it. They moved carefully across the platform, carrying their small packs and scanning the alien structures with cautious curiosity. None of them wore armor. None of them carried weapons. They were vulnerable, exposed, and utterly naive. Lyra felt a flicker of annoyance. Why was her council even entertaining the idea of negotiating with such weaklings? The morning was crisp, the sky a swirl of blue and violet clouds that stretched endlessly above the Valari capital. Suddenly alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the platform, casting sharp shadows over the humans and Lyra alike. A warning drone whirred overhead, signaling the approach of unknown ships. "Raiders," Corvin said immediately. His voice was calm, but his hands were already moving over a control panel. "They've breached our outer sensors. We need to act fast." Lyra's eyes widened. Raiders rarely dared approach the capital, the heart of Valari power. "I will handle this," she said sharply, striding toward her combat gear. But Corvin's hand on her shoulder stopped her. "Not alone. And these humans?" He nodded toward the delegation. "They are part of this now." Lyra hesitated. She did not trust them. She wanted to order them back to their ships, to hide, to protect themselves. But the alarms were loud, the drones scanning frantically. The raiders were already dropping from the clouds, sleek ships darting like predatory birds. Chaos erupted on the platform. Alien security forces scrambled to intercept the attackers. The humans froze for a moment, unsure what to do, before instinctively huddling behind nearby barriers. Lyra expected panic, fear, weakness. She was wrong. Captain Nathan Cole, the leader of the human group, moved quickly. He shouted instructions in a calm, commanding voice, directing his team to form a defensive line. Though they had no weapons, they moved with purpose, using crates and structural panels to shield themselves. He didn't shout out of fear. He shouted to coordinate. Lyra blinked, her heart quickening. There was a confidence there, a sharp mind directing action. It was not brute strength, but it was strength of another kind. A kind she had never respected until now. A group of raiders landed near the platform's edge, leaping out of their ships. They were armed with energy blades and blasters, sleek and deadly. The Valari soldiers rushed forward to engage them, and Lyra followed, expecting to cut down the humans if they got in the way. But Nathan stayed calm. He observed the Valari soldiers' movements, then pointed and gestured at certain weak points in the raiders' positions. His humans mimicked him, throwing makeshift barriers, using ropes to trip attackers, creating distractions. It was chaotic, improvised and dangerous, but effective. Lyra's breath caught as she watched them. "What is he doing?" she whispered to herself. This is impossible." A raider lunged toward a group of humans, its blaster raised. Nathan reacted instantly. He grabbed a nearby crate, swung it with precision, knocking the raider off balance and sending it sprawling. Another human followed his lead, toppling a raider with a well-aimed shove. The Valari soldiers, who had been skeptical of humans, paused in shock. Lyra felt a strange mix of pride and confusion. These humans were not warriors in the traditional sense. No, they did not have the speed or the training. But they were clever, brave, and adaptable. They were surviving in ways she had never considered. Corvin watched silently beside her. "Do you see now?" he asked. Lyra nodded slowly, still keeping her guard up. I I see that they are not what I expected, but one battle does not make a warrior. The fighting continued, and Nathan led the humans through every challenge with careful observation and quick decisions. He noticed patterns in the raiders' attacks, exploited weaknesses in their formations, and even used the environment to create traps. Slowly, the raiders were pushed back. Lyra stepped into the fray herself, her energy blade slicing through the chaos. She was impressed by the humans' courage, but still skeptical. How much of this was luck and how much was skill? Then one raider managed to get behind the Valari lines, moving toward the human delegation with its blaster aimed. Nathan reacted without hesitation. He sprinted, dodged a beam, and tackled the raider to the ground. The weapon skidded across the floor, harmless now. Nathan's team surrounded him quickly, subduing the attacker. Lyra froze. She had never seen a human move like that. Not with strength, but with speed, awareness, and decisiveness. He had risked himself to protect others without fear, without hesitation. The raiders finally retreated, realizing the attack had failed. Drones returned to patrol and the alarms quieted. The platform was in disarray, but the humans were safe, thanks in large part to Nathan's quick thinking. Lyra walked toward him, her expression unreadable. Nathan, noticing her approach, straightened, offering a polite nod. His eyes were calm, steady, and unafraid. "You handled yourself." "Well," she said slowly, still keeping her pride intact. "For a human," Nathan smiled faintly. "Thank you, but I only did what I had to. I guess we all had to survive." Lyra studied him, a whirlwind of thoughts running through her mind. He was not strong in the way her people measured strength, yet he had saved lives. He had led, adapted, and risked himself without hesitation. He was something different, something she had never expected from a human. Corvin stepped beside her. "Remember what I said," he murmured. "Strength is not always muscle and weaponry. Sometimes it is courage, and sometimes it is the mind. Observe, learn, and respect it." Lyra nodded slowly, feeling a spark of curiosity. Could it be true? Could humans, these small, fragile-looking creatures, actually be warriors in their own way? She looked at Nathan again, and for the first time she did not see a weak opponent. She saw a challenge. And perhaps, she thought quietly, she might even learn something from him. The wind from the planet's purple skies blew across the platform, carrying the scent of ozone and metal. The humans regrouped, checking each other for injuries, their teamwork efficient and calm. Nathan noticed her gaze and gave a small, respectful nod. It was not arrogance. It was acknowledgement. Lyra's pride wrestled with her growing admiration. She did not want to admit it yet, not even to herself. But one thing was clear: she had underestimated humans. And this Captain Nathan Cole, standing calmly after a battle she thought would crush them, was no ordinary human. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt a flicker of doubt, and with it, a spark of something new. Curiosity, respect, perhaps even anticipation. The battle was over, but something far more significant had begun. Lyra's journey to understanding, and the human's true potential, had just started. The sun of the Valari capital cast long shadows across the massive training arena. The structure was unlike anything Nathan had ever seen, a blend of technology and raw stone, with platforms, climbing walls, energy fields, and sparring zones that stretched across several kilometers. This was where the Valari warriors honed their skills, practiced their rituals, and measured strength, speed, and endurance. Lyra led Nathan to the center of the arena, her expression calm but sharp. Every step she took radiated confidence and authority. Her long armored boots clicked against the stone floor as she stopped before a series of sparring dummies, each one more advanced than the last. "Humans," she began, her voice carrying easily across the arena. "You think you can survive in our world because you reacted well once. But survival is not the same as mastery. Strength is measured by skill, by speed, by precision. If you truly wish to be recognized here, you will prove it." Nathan nodded, his eyes scanning the arena, taking in the various obstacles and combat devices. "I'm ready," he said calmly. He had faced dangerous situations on Earth, but nothing compared to the scale and intensity of this place. He knew that brute force alone would not win here. Observation, adaptability, and timing, these were his strengths. Lyra raised an eyebrow. "We will see." She gestured to a set of glowing energy blades hovering in midair. "Begin with these." Your goal is to disarm the dummies without touching the ground. Simple. Nathan glanced at the floating blades, each moving in erratic patterns, and then at the towering platforms. The task was far from simple, but that was exactly what he liked. He focused, assessing the environment. Instead of rushing, he observed the dummies' patterns, the speed of the blades, and the layout of the platforms. With a deep breath, he began. He jumped from one platform to another, timing his movements carefully to avoid the swinging blades. The first dummy, a standard Valari combat model, lunged forward with its mechanical arms. Nathan sidestepped, using momentum to vault over it and tap its control node, deactivating it. Lyra watched intently. The Valari warriors around her had been impressed by his survival during the raider attack, but she wanted to see his skill up close. So far, Nathan moved deliberately, analyzing each situation rather than relying on instinct alone. This was unusual. Humans rarely had such patience in combat. They either rushed recklessly or froze with fear. The second dummy was faster, armed with spinning energy blades that extended and retracted unpredictably. Nathan timed his jumps carefully, ducked at the precise moments, and used one of the arena's railings to swing himself behind the machine. With a swift kick, he knocked the blade aside and deactivated the dummy. Lyra's expression shifted from skepticism to curiosity. The human's approach was not typical of Valari warriors, who relied on speed and strength above all else. Nathan's method was different. He anticipated, adapted, and used his mind as much as his body. The third dummy was the most advanced, a combination of mechanical strength and energy projection. It moved with unpredictable speed, forcing Nathan to adjust constantly. He jumped, rolled, and ducked, narrowly avoiding the extended arms and energy bursts. At the critical moment, he grabbed a loose panel from the arena floor and used it as a shield, redirecting the energy blast toward the dummy itself. The dummy faltered and powered down. A small murmur ran through the crowd of Valari observers. Lyra's jaw tightened. This human, this fragile, soft-looking creature, had completed the trial with skill, ingenuity, and precision. He had not used raw strength, yet he had succeeded where many trained Valari warriors might fail. Lyra stepped forward. Impressive, she admitted. Her voice carried a mixture of respect and lingering doubt. But physical skill is only one part of a warrior's test. You will now face the mental challenge. You will navigate the labyrinth of shadows. Nathan followed her gaze. The labyrinth was a massive structure, a blend of shifting walls, energy traps, and optical illusions. The Valari had designed it to test a warrior's intellect, focus, and adaptability under stress. Most humans would become disoriented within seconds. Nathan's jaw tightened. Then let's get started. The labyrinth of shadows was dark, lit only by faint blue energy lines marking the walls. Nathan moved cautiously, aware that a wrong step could trigger a trap or alert a sentinel drone. He noticed subtle patterns in the lighting and the energy shifts, using them to anticipate the movement of walls and the timing of traps. Lyra observed from the central platform above, intrigued. The other Valari had dismissed humans as weak. Nathan's progress proved that perhaps their assumptions were wrong. He moved with patience and intelligence, calculating each step rather than relying on brute reflex. At one point, a wall suddenly shifted, cutting off his path. Behind him, a hidden floor panel opened, revealing a deep pit. Without hesitation, Nathan jumped onto a narrow ledge, then onto a series of small platforms, using momentum and timing to cross safely. Lyra felt a flicker of admiration. "He is different," she murmured. Corvin, who stood beside her, nodded. "He is observing, not just reacting," he said. "That is the key difference." Nathan continued through the labyrinth, solving puzzles that required both logic and intuition. He avoided traps, deciphered alien symbols, and manipulated energy conduits to open locked passages. Each step demonstrated adaptability, calm under pressure, and resourcefulness. Finally, he reached the labyrinth's center, a large chamber with a glowing energy crystal hovering above a pedestal. A Sentinel drone descended, ready to test his combat skills one final time. Nathan studied the drone, noting its attack patterns and energy projection timing. He realized brute force would not defeat it. Instead, he used the chamber's reflective panels to redirect its energy blasts, disabling it without direct confrontation. Lyra's eyes widened. Nathan had completed the mental and physical challenges of the training arena, with skill that rivaled even the best Volari warriors. She felt a mix of disbelief and respect. When Nathan emerged from the labyrinth, his chest heaving slightly from exertion, Lyra approached him. Her expression was unreadable at first. Then, with a deep breath, she spoke. "You are unlike any human I have ever known," she admitted. "You think, you adapt, and you survive. You are not the weakest. In fact, I would call you a warrior." Nathan smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thank you. But I could not have done it without observing, learning, and keeping calm. That is what keeps anyone alive in a fight." Lyra studied him, feeling her pride soften. For the ache. First time she saw humans not as fragile, weak creatures, but as beings capable of strategy, courage, and skill. They were different, yes, but perhaps that difference was their strength. Corvin stepped forward, nodding. "You have proven yourself, Nathan Cole. The Volari may not fully accept it yet, but I do. You are worthy of respect." Nathan inclined his head politely. "I am honored, but I am still learning about your people and your ways." Lyra smiled faintly, the first real smile he had seen from her. "And I am learning about yours. Perhaps there is more to humans than I imagined." The day ended, with Nathan receiving guidance from Volari trainers, observing their techniques and discussing strategy with Lyra. She was cautious, but her respect was growing. She had begun to see a future where humans could stand beside the Volari, not as subordinates, but as equals. As the sun set over the capital, casting a warm golden glow across the arena, Lyra watched Nathan interact with the other trainees. He listened to them, encouraged them, and adapted to their methods, all while staying true to his own instincts. Lyra realized something important. Strength came in many forms. Humans had a unique combination of courage, intelligence, and adaptability. Perhaps she had been wrong to doubt them so quickly. And Nathan Cole had shown her that humans could indeed be warriors, not in the way her people expected, but in a way that mattered just as much. The spark of curiosity within Lyra had grown into a flame. She wanted to see more. She wanted to test him further, to challenge him, and to discover just how far a human could rise in the ranks of the Volari warriors. The first battle had been survival. The first trial had proven skill. The next step would test strategy, courage, and the heart of a true warrior. Lyra straightened, determination in her eyes. Nathan had stood before her and changed her perception forever. Now, the real lessons were about to begin. The sky above the Volari borderlands was a swirl of dark clouds and metallic glints from distant stars. The air crackled with tension. Scouts had reported a sudden surge of enemy forces near the capital, and alarms had echoed across the planetary outposts. This time it was no training exercise. The Volari were facing a real threat, and Nathan Cole, the human captain, was about to be tested like never before. Lyra rode alongside the lead squad in her sleek combat skiff, her energy blade secured but ready. She could hear the steady hum of Nathan's human team following close behind. Though they carried no traditional weapons like the Volari, their resource packs contained gadgets, tools, and devices they could use creatively in battle. She still found their methods unorthodox, but after the training arena trials, she had begun to respect their ingenuity. "Report," Lyra demanded, her voice sharp over the wind. A Volari scout spoke quickly. "The enemy forces are larger than expected, Princess. At least twice the size of our patrols. They're fast, organized, and heavily armed." Nathan glanced at the numbers, his mind calculating instantly. "If we meet them head-on, we'll be outnumbered and overpowered," he said calmly. "We need to use the terrain, our speed, and coordinated tactics. I suggest a flanking maneuver combined with controlled ambush points." Lyra's eyebrows rose. The Volari rarely used anything so unconventional. They relied on direct assaults and overwhelming force. Nathan's plan, though risky, had a clear logic. Corvin, riding beside her, muttered quietly, "This human thinks differently. That is why he survives." Lyra gave a small nod, feeling a mixture of admiration and apprehension. "Fine," she said finally. "We will follow your lead. But if this fails..." Nathan's steady gaze met hers. "It won't fail. Not if we work together." The squad moved forward, gliding over rocky terrain and through dense alien forests. Nathan pointed out weak points in the enemy's approach, directing both human and Valari units to advantageous positions. They created traps using natural features, fallen boulders to block paths, dense fog to obscure movements, and narrow valleys to limit enemy mobility. As the first wave of raiders appeared on the horizon, Lyra felt a rush of tension. The enemy ships descended rapidly, dropping troopers armed with energy weapons and mechanical shields. Valari soldiers charged with their energy blades, engaging in combat with precision and strength. The humans followed Nathan's instructions, improvising and adapting to each sudden threat. Nathan spotted a group of raiders attempting to flank the Valari lines. He pointed to a small ridge. "Use that! Push them into the canyon. Don't engage directly, herd them!" Lyra watched, intrigued, as humans and Valari moved together with coordinated timing. Nathan's plan worked flawlessly. The raiders were funneled into a narrow canyon, their speed neutralized, their energy weapons rendered less effective by the environment. Valari warriors struck with precision, while humans used simple but clever tools, tripwires, reflective panels, and handheld pulse devices, to confuse and disable the enemy. Lyra found herself fighting alongside Nathan for the first time in real combat. She moved with her usual speed and skill, but she noticed how he didn't fight like the Valari. He didn't charge recklessly or rely on brute force. He observed patterns, predicted movements, and used minimal effort for maximum impact. When a raider lunged at her from the side, Nathan appeared beside her with a quick sweep, knocking the attacker off balance without even touching his weapon. For the first time, Lyra felt genuine respect for a human warrior. He was not as strong as her people physically, but he was faster in thought, more adaptable, and unafraid to take calculated risks. The battle intensified. Energy blasts lit up the sky as the enemy pressed harder, testing the limits of the Valari defenses. Nathan coordinated the humans and Valari in a seamless pattern, moving reinforcements where they were needed most. He used decoys, redirected attacks, and exploited weaknesses the enemy had left open. Each decision saved lives, including Lyra's. At one point, a raider ship swooped low, aiming directly at the squad. Valari anti-air units were engaged elsewhere, and the humans had no traditional weapons to stop it. Nathan acted instantly. He pulled a small device from his pack, attached it to a nearby rock, and activated it. A pulse of energy exploded, creating a temporary electromagnetic field. The raider's ship faltered, losing control and crashing harmlessly into the distant hills. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. "How?" she whispered to Corvin, who merely nodded. "He is clever," Corvin said. "This is what I have been trying to show you. Strength is not always physical. It can be in the mind, the strategy, the heart. That is a human's advantage." Lyra felt a strange mixture of pride and humility. She had underestimated humans her entire life. Nathan Cole was proving her wrong at every turn. As the battle continued, Nathan noticed a small group of civilians trapped in a collapsed structure near the front lines. Without hesitation, he signaled to Lyra. "We need to get them out." "Can you cover me?" Lyra didn't hesitate. She created a protective barrier with her energy blade, deflecting incoming attacks while Nathan and his human team worked to free the civilians. Rocks and debris were heavy, but the humans used pulleys, levers, and teamwork to lift them safely. When the last civilian emerged, Nathan stood tall, breathing heavily but calm, his eyes scanning for any remaining danger. Lyra couldn't hold back a smile. "You are remarkable," she admitted. Nathan shrugged modestly. "I'm just doing what anyone would do in my place." Lyra shook her head. "No, not anyone. Only a warrior could think and act like this under pressure. I see now why my people have been blind to humans' potential. You are different." The enemy began to retreat as the coordinated efforts of Valari and humans turned the tide. Nathan directed units to cover the withdrawal, ensuring that no one was left behind. The raiders were outsmarted and outmaneuvered, forced to flee before the combined forces could strike decisively. When the battle ended, the field was a mix of dust, smoke, and quiet. Injured soldiers were attended to, equipment was checked, and survivors regrouped. Lyra approached Nathan, her armor scratched and slightly scorched from the battle. She extended her hand, a gesture of respect rarely given. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have led. You have saved lives. And most importantly, you have proven humans can be warriors." Nathan accepted her hand with a small, respectful nod. "Thank you, but I couldn't have done it alone. Your people fought bravely too. We all did this together." Lyra studied him for a long moment. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Humans were not like the Valari, but perhaps that was their strength. They were unpredictable, innovative, and unafraid to challenge convention. Nathan had shown courage, intelligence, and leadership in ways her people rarely did. Corvin approached, his voice calm but firm. "Lyra, I believe you have learned an important lesson today. Warriors come in many forms. Nathan Cole has shown us that." Lyra nodded slowly, her pride softening. "Yes, and I want to see how far this human can go. He is unlike anyone I have ever met." Nathan glanced at her, sensing the weight of her words. He did not boast, but he understood the significance. He had earned her respect, and that was no small thing for a Valari warrior. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, Lyra and Nathan stood side by side. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Nathan had proven that humans could be more than expected. They could be allies, strategists, and true warriors in their own right. For Lyra, the lesson was clear. Humans were not weak. They were different, yes, but in that difference lay their greatest strength. And for Nathan, the lesson was equally clear. Courage, observation, and intelligence could turn the tide of battle, even against an enemy vastly stronger in traditional ways. Together, they had faced the shadow of war and had survived. Stronger and wiser than before. The future was uncertain, but one thing was certain. Humans had earned a place in the Valari world, and Lyra would never look at them the same way again. The Valari capital stretched like a gleaming fortress under the setting sun. Its towers and walls reflected the amber light, making the city look untouchable, almost eternal. But Nathan knew that even the strongest fortress could fall if the defenders were divided or unprepared. The reports had been grim. A massive invading army was approaching, far larger than any the Valari had faced in decades. Lyra rode with Nathan to the city gates, her usual composure showing no cracks, but her mind was tense. She had learned to respect humans, but now it was time to see if they could fight alongside the Valari on a scale larger than any trial or skirmish. "Princess," Nathan said, glancing at her while adjusting a strap on his pack. "We need to organize the city's defenses differently. The Valari rely on frontal strength, but that will be costly against this number. We need layers, traps, and coordination between our forces." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "You propose a strategy no Valari has used before." "If it fails," Nathan's calm gaze met hers. "It won't fail. We only need to act as one." Corvin rode beside them, observing quietly. "Your faith in him surprises me," he muttered. Lyra did not respond. She was watching Nathan, noticing how he observed, calculated, and adjusted his plan in real time. He did not command arrogantly. He suggested, adapted, and encouraged cooperation. By the time they reached the main gates, Valari commanders had gathered. Nathan presented his plan. "We'll divide the defenses into 3 layers," he said, pointing to a holographic map. "First, the outer perimeter with barricades and traps to slow their advance. Second, mobile squads to intercept and disrupt. Third, strong defensive points within the city for fallback if needed." The Valari leaders exchanged uneasy glances. Their traditions favored direct assault, not calculated delay and adaptation. Lyra stepped forward. "We follow this plan. Nathan Cole will lead the humans and coordinate with Valari units. Trust him." A murmur ran through the crowd, but Lyra's authority silenced any objections. Nathan nodded politely. "Let's prepare. They will be here soon." The next hours were a whirlwind. Humans and Valari worked together, setting up barricades, placing energy nets, and positioning soldiers at key choke points. Nathan's mind worked continuously, anticipating enemy tactics and preparing countermeasures. He instructed humans to use gadgets creatively, while Valari soldiers used their natural strength and combat skill. As night fell, the sky filled with the gleam of enemy ships. The invading army descended in waves, filling the horizon with dark shapes and red lights. Lyra gripped her energy blade tightly, ready to defend the city she had sworn to protect. The first wave of raiders hit the outer perimeter. Traps slowed their advance, and Nathan's instructions allowed humans to create temporary barriers, confuse sensors, and redirect enemy squads. Valari soldiers attacked with their energy blades, striking with precision and strength. Lyra fought alongside Nathan, noticing how he never charged recklessly. Instead, he observed the battlefield, guided his team, and adjusted tactics instantly. When a group of raiders broke through a barricade, Nathan signaled a human team to use portable pulse devices to disable their shields, while Lyra and her Valari warriors intercepted them. The enemy faltered. Coordination between humans and Valari made them unpredictable. Nathan's tactics amplified the Valari's strength instead of replacing it. Lyra realized that this was more than strategy. It was teamwork on a level her people rarely practiced. A massive enemy walker advanced toward the city gates, its energy cannon ready to destroy anything in its path. Valari siege weapons were too slow to stop it alone. Nathan spotted a narrow canyon nearby. "Lead it there," he commanded, pointing to the terrain. "Its size will work against it." Lyra hesitated. Maneuvering a massive machine into a canyon was risky, but Nathan's calm authority and clear logic gave her confidence. She led a squad to guide the walker, using energy blasts and precise maneuvers to funnel it into the canyon. Once trapped, Nathan directed a combination of Valari explosives and human devices to disable the machine. The canyon erupted in a controlled explosion. Dust and smoke filled the air, but the walker was destroyed, and the enemy advance slowed significantly. Lyra allowed herself a small nod of approval toward Nathan. The battle raged on through the night. Humans and Valari moved as one, anticipating each other's actions. Nathan's improvisation and guidance turned what could have been chaos into an organized defense. He suggested using reflective panels to redirect energy blasts, improvise barricades to channel enemy troops, and even created decoys to lure the enemy into traps. Lyra fought with intensity, covering Nathan's team when necessary. She could feel her respect for him growing stronger with every action. He was not just surviving, he was leading, teaching, and inspiring. Corvin, observing from a tower, muttered to a nearby commander, "This human has changed the course of this battle. It is unprecedented." By dawn, the enemy's forces began to falter. Their numbers had not decreased entirely, but confusion, traps, and strategic attacks had weakened them. Nathan's team continued to adapt, exploiting gaps and coordinating with Valari squads for maximum effect. Lyra faced a moment of danger when a raider ambush threatened to breach a secondary gate. Without hesitation, Nathan appeared beside her, guiding her movements and neutralizing the attackers with calculated precision. Together they fought back, combining Valari skill with human ingenuity. After hours of continuous battle, the invaders finally retreated, leaving the city battered but standing. Smoke rose from damaged structures, but the city gates remained intact and the people had survived. Lyra lowered her energy blade, exhaustion evident but mixed with exhilaration. She looked at Nathan, who was calmly checking his team for injuries. You have done the impossible," she said, her voice a mixture of awe and admiration. Nathan shook his head. "We did it together. The humans alone couldn't have held the city, and your people alone wouldn't have had the flexibility to adapt so quickly. This is the strength of working together." Lyra studied him, realizing that humans were not warriors in the Valari sense, but they were warriors in their own way. Innovative, courageous, and resilient. Nathan had demonstrated that humans could stand shoulder to shoulder with even the greatest alien fighters. Corvin approached, nodding at Nathan. "Your strategy saved the city. I believe even the Council will recognize your skill." Nathan smiled faintly. "I hope they see that it's not about who is strongest. It's about working together and thinking ahead." Lyra felt something she had never felt before. Humility. She had always measured strength in terms of physical power, speed, and discipline. Nathan had shown her another kind of strength, the kind that could turn the tide of battle, protect lives, and inspire allies. The citizens of the capital began emerging cautiously from shelters, their eyes wide at the aftermath of the battle. Nathan moved among them, helping those injured, directing aid and ensuring safety. Lyra watched, impressed by his calm authority and empathy. As the sun rose fully, casting light over the battered but undefeated city, Lyra approached Nathan once more. Her pride had softened into respect, and her words were deliberate. "You have earned the trust of my people," she said. "And more importantly, you have earned mine. I see now that humans are not the weak creatures I once believed. They are warriors in their own way. And you, Captain Nathan Cole, you have proven it." Nathan nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Princess Lyra. That means a lot coming from you. But the real credit belongs to all of us. Humans and Valari together, we are stronger." Lyra smiled faintly. "Perhaps this is the beginning of a new way for my people. One where strength is measured not only by muscle, but by courage, intelligence, and heart." Nathan looked at her, a spark of understanding in his eyes. That is the true measure of a warrior. The city had survived, the invaders had been repelled, and a bond had been forged between humans and Valari that no battle could break. Lyra had learned a valuable lesson. Strength came in many forms, and humans possessed a form that could not be underestimated. For Nathan, it was a victory not only of strategy but of trust. He had stood beside Lyra, guiding her people and earning their respect, not by proving himself superior, but by showing that cooperation, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even impossible odds. And for Lyra, the lesson was clear. The human before her was more than she had ever imagined. He had shown her that even those she had underestimated could rise, lead, and inspire. The city was safe, but the war was far from over. Nathan's presence had changed everything. For the first time, Lyra knew that the future of her people might depend on learning from humans, not dismissing them. And in the heart of the Valari capital, the shadow of war had created an unbreakable bond, one that would shape the destiny of both species for years to come.